Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Yogesh and today we are going to talk about performance management. Now, when I talk about performance management, let us try to answer this question. What is the difference between performance and perception? Because I remember my first job as an HR executive, I saw perception management. I was wondering what we are going to see today because my GM was excited that, hey, today we are going to talk about appraisals. Once in a year, great time for HR. And I was wondering what it's all about. Then I saw a giant Excel sheet on a screen like this, and then people were rated A, B, C, D. Based on what? Based on perceptions of their reporting managers. Unfortunately, many organizations, like my first organization, they do not have the right performance management system that captures performance of an employee. So again, I'm asking you this question. What is performance in this performance management? How do you define performance? Is it performance of the individual? And is it possible that an individual is performing well within his abilities and the organization is not performing? Let's take another example of organization B. One of the organizations where I worked, there we had a region, East India region. In the East India region, 70% of our employees were rated as A out of 4, A, B, C, D, and then E you usually remove from the company. 70% people scored A, but this was the least profitable region, least performing region as per all the financial metrics. Now my question is, are we measuring performance still? So what is performance? Is it about the individual? Is it about the organization? Or is it about the both? And you guessed it right. When we say performance in organizational context, we are talking about achieving organizational performance. Performance here means organizational objectives through individual objectives. Individual objectives are valuable when your organization is achieving its objectives. Now, this opens another dimension for all of us. That when you think about performance management as a concept and design a performance management system, which is our objective, we have to think from the organizational perspective first. And then we have to go to the individual perspective, right? And what we are trying to do here, before we jump into how of performance management, let's understand why. If you look at HR Leadership Council research, they say the number one driver for an individual to perform better is performance management system. And the second driver is employee-manager interaction. Now, if you look at the third driver, which is formal review, which should be part of performance management system, informal feedback, which should be part of manager-employee interaction. So you can see here, according to HR Leadership Council, the number one driver of performance is a performance management system. The second driver is employee-manager interaction. Driver number 3 is formal review, and driver number 4 is informal feedback. And like I said, if you seriously look at 3 and 4, they are part of the first 2 only. So the number one driver for an individual for performance is, of course, a performance management system. Having a performance management system. And if you still do not agree with me, think about a situation. You have employee A, employee B, employee C. All these 3 are sales executives. Now, employee A does 100,000 sales. Employee B does $70,000 sales. Employee C does $40,000 sale. Now, these monthly numbers are never questioned for next 6 months. There is no review. There is no performance. Of course, in sales, it is not going to happen. But imagine if you are not asking them, what will be their performance after 6 months if higher performer is not recognized and the low performance is not questioned. What is going to happen after 6 months? Will this person who is achieving 40,000, will he reach 100,000? Or there is high probability that the person who is achieving 100,000 will reach to 40,000. Water always flows from area of high pressure to low pressure, isn't it? So, if you do not have an official performance management system, you are going to struggle with performance. That's why it's the number one driver. And of course, the second driver is manager-employee interaction, which is again part of your performance management system when you design it properly. So this is why you need a performance management system to achieve organizational objectives. In fact, this is one of the most important reasons you were hired as an HR, or you will be hired as an HR, to help achieve organizational goals. Now, let's start the journey of designing a performance management system. And here is your first challenge. Look at this picture. I want you to give me all these 6. This is the quest we are on. We want a system that is integrated with organizational performance and organizational goals. That's what we call goal integration. If I achieve individual goals, I should be able to achieve organizational goals in the end. So there should be an integration between organizational objectives and individual objectives. Second thing we want is to capture past, present, future, all 3 in terms of individual performance. What I mean by that? Sometimes as an organization, you know a person is not able to perform right now because we are not prepared. For example, a startup. You can't imagine a startup salesperson will immediately give you numbers. It reminds me of a recent example. There is a small company and their HR leader came to me. He wanted to talk to me. She's an HR manager, in fact. And she said, Mr. Yogesh, I'm facing this problem. 6 employees resigned last week. And I said, how big is your company? And she said, we are 10 people. Out of 10, 6 resigned. I asked her, why 6 resigned? And then she said, they were not achieving their sales targets. I said, how old they were into your system? And she said, they joined this month only. So at the beginning of the month, 6 people join, and by end of the month, you expect them to achieve their sales target. This is going to happen. They will resign. So when you design a performance management system or even a KRA or a KPI or a goal for an employee, you have to consider your reality. There are no systems. There is no SOP. How you can expect these people to achieve results? So you have to consider past, the present, and the future as well. Sometimes you have to retain some key talent because you need them in the future. They have high potential. They may not be able to perform today because of ABC reasons. For example, I have a team member. She is a good combination of 2 different functions, let's say sales and marketing, and she has great potential. Initially, her performance was not great because she's balancing her marketing and sales role. So I have to be considerate of that. So her sales target is actually lower than other salespeople. So you have to consider these things. The next one is objectivity. What do you mean by objectivity? Is your performance management system subjective or objective? How to answer that question? Simply, if I please my manager by doing grocery shopping for him and he gives me A rating, it means you have a subjective performance management system. I know there are some things which are always subjective. I can understand that. But you have to bring objectivity as much as you can. Quantifiable KPIs, that's the answer. So, do you have objectivity in your performance management system? Motivation, does it motivate your employee? If you keep your goals too high, it will not motivate people. I want you to study Vroom's expectancy theory. If people have unachievable targets, they won't be motivated. So is it motivating your people? Is it transparent? People want transparency, people want fairness. Everyone should be treated equal in the eyes of a performance manager or for a system like this. So this is the quest. We want a system that has all of those things. And if I show you some of the traditional systems like these, for example, paired comparison, where you are comparing people, A with B, A with C, A with D, A with E, and you can see people are rated in comparisons. It never worked out. You can do it, but it's not a great system. Then you have graphic scale rating, where on certain traits or metrics, I'm going to measure a person's performance, such as attendance, which is poor, fairly good, good, excellent, behavior towards subordinates, sincerity, dependability. Now, the problem with such a system is that I don't know if a person is sincere or not. I don't know after 20 years in HR. I mean, what I mean by that is the definition of sincerity will change situation to situation. If there are 10 people in the room and I have done it hundreds of the time, I have asked thousands of HR professionals in hundreds of the trainings, what do you understand by sincerity? And the answers always differ. So, again, this system is not so great and there is high scope for subjectivity. Behaviorally anchored rating scale is in fact a better choice when you are measuring behavior. You can collect incidents, you can identify performance, you can assign values, and you can get a final instrument or a score. For example, here you can see if an employee does not talk to the customer, doesn't make an eye contact in a retail store, I may give him 1 based on his behavior, and here I can give a 5 based on behavior of another sales associate in a retail store. Now, the answer to most of these questions is a performance management system designed by Peter Drucker in 1954, and he calls it management by objective. He says we need to manage people by objectives because we hire them when we have certain objectives. So if I hire person A to achieve certain objectives, why should I evaluate him on entirely different metrics or traits? I hire a salesperson, I should measure the sales targets and sales goals he has achieved, isn't it? So, management by objective beautifully integrates and tries to solve all the problems or challenges of a performance management system that I introduced in the beginning, the quest, if you remember. So, the first thing in a management by objective is define organizational goals. First, let's define what are organizational goals. Now, we may not have time to discuss this entirely in this small lecture, but you can use a tool like Balanced Scorecard to define organizational goals, which can be integrated with the system. Second step, once the organizational goals are defined, you need to define employee objectives from organization to department, from department to employees. Third step is continuously monitoring performance and progress. Then you evaluate the performance, give feedback, and then in the end, you have appraisals. So these are simple 6 steps of management by objective, which is a very effective system for performance management system. Now, one more thing I want to add here. When you are setting up objectives, always set objectives from top to bottom. We call it top-down approach. We set organizational goals or corporate objectives. Then we set your departmental objectives, then we set the team goals, and then we set individual goals. But when you review the performance, always go bottom up. You first review individual objectives and you help individuals achieve their objectives. That will naturally help teams to achieve their objectives. That will help department to achieve its objectives. That will help us achieve corporate objectives. For example, a company that wants to achieve X revenue will send this goal to their sales team. And sales team will give this particular goal out of this X, let's say X minus 75%, whatever it is sent to a particular regional sales team. And then there is whatever it is, X minus 75% divided by 4, if there are 4 people, that's the individual objective in that particular region. Now, if these individuals achieve their goals, we are going to achieve our corporate goals as well. This is how the performance is achieved from bottom to top. Now, that's the objective of a performance management system. The objective is not to just conduct once a year appraisal. Keep this in mind. And this is just the beginning of performance management system. Thanks for watching. Take care.